What's going on, guys and gals of YouTube? My name is TIKTAK and welcome back to another video. Now, before we get into this, funny enough, as I was recording this about an hour ago, I took a little break. Wujio, the really high-end Diablo content creator, as I'm still trying to break into the scene a little bit, made a video that's very, very similar to this. However, we kind of go for different target audiences. He has spreadsheets, he's breaking down everything min-maxy. The video is fantastic, and I'm going to link it down in the description below, but I'm more of the casual, you know, this is good, you should try this, here's why kind of content creator. And that's what I'm going to do for you guys here today. Leveling up glyphs is super important to your build. Most people who are very high level use the, you know, base level dungeon XP farming thing, and most of them are just starting to level up their glyphs now after hitting 100 or after all the XP farms have gotten nerfed. With that being said, I highly recommend doing these because they really do end up pulling your build together. If you want to hit for 10 million, if you want to be able to tank the world, anything and everything is basically inside your Paragon board, and tweaking it here and there is actually more fun than I thought it was going to be. Considering I thought everything was just base stat increases, when they have the little glyphs really do give you a ton of beneficial things. As you saw in the thumbnail, I went from like 79 overpower damage to like 280, I believe it said. It's a lot of extra bonus damage, a lot of extra bonus tankiness you can find, or even utility perks like more resource generation, stuff like that. It's really important in the game, and hopefully, you know, with them nerfing all the dungeons, maybe they'll bring out nightmare dungeons to be a little bit more rewarding, and so you really want to start leveling up your glyphs. With that being said, or your sigils, no, leveling up your glyphs using sigils. With that being said, let's talk about sigils before I talk about a couple of dungeons that I recommend for you guys to do. And the sigils are all fine except two, specifically for Druid, because that's what I can speak on. You want to avoid two of the modifiers on there. Number one, you're always looking for magic find. I've never really seen it make a difference, but it can't hurt that if it's actually on the sigil. Number two, you want to avoid at all costs, especially for Druid. I can't speak about other classes, but I've heard Necromancers have it rough too, is resource burn. That will literally make you not be able to play the game as a Druid. You will not have any sorts of resources. You will, it feels terrible. I break them down instantaneously, whichever ones I do get. The second one you want to avoid, at least again for Druid, is backstabbers. Backstabbers does 150% damage if you get attacked from behind, and the funny thing is for some reason AoE damage in this game also counts. So even those red lightning balls that spin that sometimes the elite enemies have, if you get hit from behind on one of those, it'll count for that backstabber damage. So just avoid those two at all costs, especially for Druid, and that's really all you need to know about sigils. Now, since all of the dungeons have been nerfed, there are still a few that are slightly better than others, but not even necessarily better than others in an XP sort of sense. I'm talking strictly about how they are to farm, how easy and quick they are to farm, because even though all the XP has been brought down to around the same level, the difficulty of dungeons sure as hell hasn't. So there are a few dungeons that we're going to avoid here at all costs, and some, about 5, that I want to talk to you guys about that really are much easier and much more beneficial to farm. So with that out of the way, let's talk about it. The first one is going to be Blind Burrows. I'm using the interactive map here, so I don't have to run around and try to find all the dungeons alone. But it's to the east of Zarbazet. That's what it's called. To the east of Zarbazet. This dungeon's full of just spiders and spiders and spiders, and spiders are, in my opinion, one of the easier enemies in the game. Maybe avoid a poison modifier in this dungeon if possible. But besides that, Blind Burrows is probably one of the best dungeons in the entire game right now, so just be on the lookout for sigils that drop with that. Another one I highly recommend is Alderwood. Alderwood is a pretty easy dungeon to take on. It's got boars and trees and porcupines and wolves. There is nothing too dangerous here that can end up killing you. The only thing that I recommend staying away from on this map is probably anything that has a decent amount of ranged damage. The issue for that are these quill boars, the little porcupines. They end up hurting really bad. So if you get something that buffs range damage on one of your modifiers, or slows you with range damage on one of your modifiers. Just maybe stay away from those. But besides that, it's a pretty easy mission. You go in, you kill a couple of things, and that's it. And you move on to the next section, which none of these sections are super difficult. It has a decent amount of high-level enemies, elites that you can easily kill, but again, there's nothing too scary here. And then it has no middle point, and you just go to the end and you end the dungeon. So it's pretty easy to take care of. It's pretty easy to do. I highly recommend this one. The only issue might be the Den Mother, but I mean, in reality, you're doing regular missions or you're doing nightmare missions. She might be the only problem, but the whole entire dungeon is super easy and super quick to run. I highly recommend Alderwood because you can just get your sigil XP up super fast. The dungeon is so short. The next one I want to talk about is Gulron Canals. This is right at the Hidden Overlook underpass or waypoint. You come over here. Do not take Gulron Slums. It is a very different mission and can be difficult on higher difficulties. It has a lot of poison bugs. It has a lot of heavy hitters. The bosses can one-shot. This is a much more difficult dungeon, pushing nightmare tiers, but this one in general is probably the top 3 dungeon in the game at the moment. It is super quick, super fast. Enemies are very easy to take care of. It's super simple to do this one. So keep a lookout for Gulron Canals. This is a really good mission to run, especially with a team, because you guys can split the dungeon in half. I mean, you can do that in all of them, but this one in particular just is smaller. It's got a lot of, tight-knit pathways that
I need more spirit.
Just allow you to really run through this quite quickly. The next one I want to talk about is Mallwood. Mallwood in general is one of the fastest dungeons in the game, and if you're farming just to level up your glyphs, I highly recommend it. It is to the right of Margrave, which is in Altered Peaks, or Fractured Peaks. Jesus, Fractured Peaks, not Alterac Valley. God damn, that's the wrong game. And this one's super fun because it is super fast. If you're on a fast clearing character or clearing or character with a lot of mobility, this one can be done in literal minutes. This one's very similar to Alderwood, except it's a little faster. As long as you can, find everything quickly enough. But again, you're only really dealing with trees, wolves, and bandits. All of the enemy types that are much easier than ghosts. And possibly even spiders. It depends. So as you can see, in particular, this one, if you can kind of figure out where the bone totems spawn, you can make this one a lot faster. And like that took me like about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but it was seriously super easy, as you guys saw. And this was on Nightmare tier. It's not a very difficult.
Total 30 and Total 30 for Astigmatism are the only monthly replacement contact.
The last one I want to talk to you guys about is Wraithwind Wilds. That is very similar to like the Mallwood Porcupine ones. It's very easy to do. Again, stay away from anything that is a super like range defensive thing, because those porcupine really end up hurting. But it's a super simple one to do, and that is right above Karagar. It's right up here. I highly recommend this one as well. They're just easier to do. But I just wanted to bring you guys this video to talk about, if you're pushing nightmare glyphs and you want kind of like an easier time doing so. I can't recommend these missions more than I currently do. The only one that I'll say, if you're running in a team of 3 or less, is still Champion's Demise. For some reason, when you run it on Nightmare mode, it still gives a crap ton of XP. I tested it twice yesterday, and both times it was giving me 900,000 XP per run on Nightmare mode. But it takes around 6 to 8 minutes to clear solo. So I really don't recommend doing it solo. I really do recommend running it with a team. And Champion's Demise is probably, there's a few, is one of the better ones if you have a team. There are a few other missions in the game that are decent, they're good, but these are definitely the easiest and or the fastest to run, especially solo. Not dealing with ranged enemies in this game is a big plus, especially if you're playing a melee class or a melee-ish class like I am. So yeah, I just wanted to bring you guys this information. You guys can check it out. I will link Wujio's video down below. So you guys, if you want a much more in-depth breakdown and his opinion on everything, you guys can check that out. But I just wanted to make this quick, short little video. I'm going to go fight the world boss now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be live later today at twitch.tv/roundedtiktak. We would absolutely love to have you by and say what's up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm doing help. If you need carries for capstone dungeons or anything like that, I will be there to help you. Thank you guys so much. See you on the next one. TikTak out.